Alright, hello. So to start your labs, you go to the lecture portion and you go to the lab tab and you go to lab assignment. And our first lab is Introduction to Lab Simulations. So this lab will give you some practice, messing around in the lab and seeing how do I work this simulation. When you log into Hayden McNeil, you'll see a list of labs. And you'll look for the one that says Introduction to Lab Simulations. And it'll look something like this. Let me go back to the first page. And so please read through this carefully. It's explaining to you what the purpose of doing this lab is, what you need to do before you enter the lab, what the workspace looks like, your navigation tools, zooming in, zooming out. Your instruments, this is very important. You have your materials, like your chemicals, your containers, your lab glassware, and your instruments. And a few of these are on your glassware quiz, equipment quiz, because I wanted you to kind of be familiar with what we're using. And so then, for every lab, you'll have a background. So make sure you read the background. And then you'll go to Open the Simulation. So you'll click this, and it opens up a simulation. You click Start Lab. Make sure you get your goggles, lab coat, and gloves. You enter the lab, and it opens the space for you. Now, when you do this, you have your directions right below. Now, I didn't copy this on a Word document because I thought you could just use it from here. I mean, if you wanted to, you can copy paste into a Word document, however you want to do it, but for our purposes, you could also have the lab on another page. You can work on it that way. Your choice, and it'll probably help to do that. Now, here when you have your lab, I have the lab Introduction to Lab Simulations doc, that one on the bottom. Download it, and when you download it, it looks like this. Let me show you. It looks like this. So ideally, this actually didn't have this sheet to go with it. We made it for you guys, so it didn't have anything for you to write. But then I decided it's better probably if I have this available to you, so it makes it a little easier. So this is where you're going to put in your data. At some point in the lab, it'll say record the volume, record the temperature. So this is where you'll do that. So let's go back to the lab. It says get to know the lab. On the lab, you will see 3 shelves: materials, containers, and instruments. There are sideways arrows that appear in many labs on either side of the shelves. Click the arrows to view all contents of the shelf. So, take the time to kind of, familiarize yourself with this. So you can kind of, as you hover over it, you can see the names, what it is, because it might be a long time. It might have been a long time since you were in a lab. And so you might need a refresher for the names. And so that's what it's telling you to do. And it says click and drag the 150 milliliter Erlenmeyer flask to the workbench. When it is in position, release it onto the workbench. So I'm going to look, here it is. And I'm going to put it here on the workbench. Locate the 6 molarity hydrochloric acid. Use the arrows on the material shelves to access additional materials. When you highlight a container, a tooltip will appear with the name of the material. So again, like you might not know, even I don't know right now because they're all messed up here. Oh, here, 1 molar hydrochloric, but they said 6 molar, so there it is, 6 molar hydrochloric acid. 6 molar hydrochloric acid. There it is. Now, you're going to add 50 milliliters of hydrochloric acid to the materials, to the actual Erlenmeyer flask by dragging it to there. So if you notice, when I put it on the bench, it didn't work. It says materials can only be added to containers. So you add it here. You kind of hover over it, like if you were actually going to do it. And then it says add 50 milliliters, so I'm going to add 50 milliliters. And it's there. You can kind of see it, the liquid rising. Let's go to the 6 molar HCl bottle, and then we did that. When 2 containers or a container and an instrument interact, they will snap into place if the objects are close enough. Some instruments can be placed into containers. Take a thermometer from the instrument shelf and attach it to the Erlenmeyer flask by dragging it onto the Erlenmeyer flask and letting go of the mouse button. Record the temperature of the HCl in the flask in order to use it for later in your post-lab assignment. So I'm going to go look for a thermometer. So there it is. Again, this is something that this one you could put on the bench. You know, imagine you're in an actual lab, you might not need it yet. So you can use it. And so you'll dip it in there. Now notice that it says, oh, it doesn't say what units. So if you go back to your lab sheet, first of all, I missed stuff, right? So it says the volume of 6 molar. So how much did we add? We added 50 milliliters. Okay, that's what we did. Temperature of the 6 molar in degrees Celsius. Okay, notice how it's in Fahrenheit. I gotta push this, not K, I want C. It's 21.5, so I'm gonna record that at 21.5. Alright. And you go on to read the rest. Read ahead to step 7 and 8. Then from the material shelf, click and drag the 1 molar solution, add it to the Erlenmeyer flask, enter 50 milliliters. So notice when it says read ahead, read ahead. Like right now, I shouldn't be doing anything yet. I need to read ahead. It says you should observe a change in temperature displayed. The temperature of the liquid in the Erlenmeyer flask has gone up, indicating a reaction has taken place. Record the maximum temperature displayed by the thermometer. And so the reason we read ahead is because you're going to see the temperature rise really quick, and then it'll start going down. And so you really want to get it at the maximum temperature. And so it says, so I'll go back here. It says, get the 1 molar NaOH and add 50 milliliters, okay? And so, how much NaOH are we adding? It says to add 50. Just double checking. Yes, it does say to add 50 milliliters. And then get ready for the maximum temperature when I mix both. So let me see. NaOH. Again, I'm looking for 1M NaOH, 1 molar NaOH. So we gotta look for it. It's not in here. Oh, here it is. 1 molar sodium hydroxide. Again, NaOH, or it actually has the actual name on there, so if you don't know the names yet. 1 molar sodium hydroxide, perfect. Alright, I'm gonna put 50 milliliters in here, remember? And then I have to quickly get the maximum temperature. I'm gonna put that in there. 50 milliliters. 26.7 right now. 26.7 was the highest, and now it's going down. You see how the volume is rising? And so now we have, and you can zoom on this if you're like, I need to see what's going on. Like, you can see now that the volume is at 100, right? Because we had 50 milliliters of HCl, 50 milliliters of NaOH. And so I put my information there and put the 26.7C, and you just keep going. Keep going. And so really all of these are just following the directions, taking your time to work on it. That's the whole thing with this lab. It's more of like, you know, messing around in the lab trying to see how to work things. You just go step by step, step by step. So for example, the next part. And so when you're ready, you're like, I'm ready for the next part. You can reset the lab and everything resets back to the regular lab. And you can do experiment 2. And it'll make you start this again. You can skip animation. Make this bigger. Make it zoom out. Click and drag a 150 milliliter Erlenmeyer flask. Same thing. It's telling you, read the information. It's telling you that although it's 150 milliliters, right? There's that extra space. There's that extra volume. Double click the Erlenmeyer flask to access the options. So again, everything you do is just following the directions here. So double click. When I do, it shows me that I can have an open container like it is now, or I can close it. I could even label it if I wanted to. Like if I was doing an experiment where I needed multiple of them, then you can name it. Right now it doesn't say to name it. It just says to close the flask. So I closed it. And so notice that when I closed it, it has a little stopper. And then you record the volume of the air in the flask. Let's see. So at 0 milliliters of water, what is the volume of air in milliliters? What's the pressure of air in ATM? So you'll record that. Record the volume right now, what it is. And then it says, as a pressure gauge, on the instruments shelf to the Erlenmeyer flask. You should see 1 ATM. And so again, it's just following directions. So you look for the pressure gauge. There it is. Again, you can put it on this here, or you can put it on there. Be careful of setting one at 1 ATM. It is at 1 ATM, but if you happen earlier when I did this, it was on like a different unit. Make sure it's on ATM. Okay. So again, just follow directions step by step. Fill it out, and then once it's filled out, and you fill it out completely, then you submit it to Blackboard. Again, skip number 5 and 9 because we haven't gone over that material yet. And I think from there you'll be able to get it. So let me know if you have any more questions about this.